not my problem. It's not my problem.
All right, welcome to the Prospect Podcast. Today, it is afternoon here, but it is nice and just beginning morning part for you out in Oregon land. You can see the big O there in the background. I'm Coach Human. I'm here with Coach D, as always, on the Prospect Podcast. We have a fantastic guest today, head soccer coach, University of Oregon, Tracy Jordan. We're glad to have you on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. You've had quite a rise over the last 13 years since you started coaching, and which has landed you. This will be, I guess, this upcoming year will be your second year at the University of Oregon at the helm. A California girl at heart. Was coached. Played at Cal Berkeley. Then was at UC Davis as a coach most recently. Before that, she had coached briefly at Cal Berkeley, I think, then stepped away. Must have been in the business world. There wasn't any information that I'll let you expand when we get to that part of it. But also has her master's in education at BU. Played in the WPSL for California Storm. Played in the Women's Professional Soccer League, and really has risen up very, very quickly. Most recently at UC Davis, before that at San Francisco State. Was also at Santa Rosa Junior College as well. I guess that was your first head coaching gig, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Really doing some exceptional things, and now turning around the Oregon program and building that back up. If you could kind of just dive into, I went briefly into your background, but take us on a journey of your career within the soccer world.
Yeah. So after playing pro, or actually not playing pro, after finishing college, the pro league that existed, which was WUSA, had folded like 2 years prior. So there really wasn't an opportunity to play professionally unless I went abroad. But I stayed in the game. I was coaching club and playing in the WPSL, which is, like a semi-pro league. And then in 2008, the WPS started, which was like the new pro league, which was the precursor to the NWSL. So I got drafted to play. So I played one season, and then in my off season, I was the assistant coach at Cal. So that was in 2009. So that was my little 1 year stint as an assistant. And then I signed a new contract to play in Atlanta. So I moved to Atlanta and played there for a season. And we were told that there was only going to be one more year left of the WPS, that they were running out of funding. And so, I've always loved education and just thought I'd wanted to start a new path, and applied to BU to the sports psychology program. Thought I wanted to be a sports psychologist, and turns out, listening to people's problems in a room is not something I'm super interested in doing. So I was like, I can take this education and apply it to coaching. So after BU, I moved back to California and was working just like a desk job, like working as an executive assistant, not in coaching, not in sports, but hated it, was sitting in a cubicle, and I was like, this is not what I want to be doing. And so I started applying jobs, and I saw the job at Santa Rosa Junior College, and I didn't know anything about junior college soccer, but it was a master's required position. And I was like, I just got one of those. And I also love coaching. So let's go do that. So I applied and ended up getting it, which was pretty transformational just in my life and my career, because working with that demographic of women was pretty just significant, and understanding that there's different reasons to play the game outside of just being like a diehard competitor and wanting to be a professional, which was, that was kind of always my motivation, is, to be the best at something. And a lot of those players just played because they loved the game so much. And, it was an outlet for different things they had going on in their life, or it was an opportunity for them to get an education. And so had a couple successful seasons there and got the call up to San Francisco State, which was Division II program. So moved to the city and had 4 awesome seasons there. Really enjoyed it. Learned a lot. Still really like kind of young in my career, but again did really well and got the call to interview for UC Davis and went to Davis and mid-major D1 and again had some success turning that program around. And the day after my final season at Davis, I was actually going to move or was considering moving out to Michigan because my husband coaches basketball at University of Michigan. Uh, but then I called him and I said, University of Oregon just called me. So we might not be coming out there anymore. And he's really supportive and understands that, we follow dreams in our house. So he was like, go after it and see if you can get it. So yeah, ended up at University of Oregon and it's been great because this is kind of my blueprint and this is going to be my masterpiece is what I am calling it is taking over programs that haven't necessarily had a history of winning and turning them into, viable programs and powerhouses. So I'm hoping that, Oregon's going to be my pinnacle and just a big opportunity to build something really special here.
It's amazing that a place like Oregon that has had so much success in so many things that you don't think about that there might be others, because you see football and you see, some of the other bigger sports. Obviously, it's known for like track and field as well and all that, because of Hayward Field and stuff.
Sure.
But and obviously the resources that Oregon has accessibility to. Phil Knight's a good resource, among others.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So, you don't think of that as having to be a possible turnaround project, but people don't realize that like every program within a university, there are different things going on. And it's not just only about like obviously the programs that you might see all the time on TV. There may be other needs or other reasons. So when you came into that program, especially since you're like kind of like a turnaround expert, you know what I mean? Like you're really that's kind of been your
builder.
your forte, taking a program and building it up. What was it? I mean, I'm sure I might know a little bit of your answer on this, but what was it that like you thought to yourself, like, all right, this is a challenge I want to take on?
I just, having played in the Pac-10, that's how old I am.
Right.
We had always played, Oregon was in our conference, and this was like my favorite trip that we got to make. And so I'd always kind of had my eye on Oregon, and obviously the past few seasons, like when I was at Davis, like I had this inkling that it had potential to open, and I felt like this is somewhere that I could win, and that we could build something because certainly the resources are um, obvious in a lot of ways. And,
Right.
there's definitely like, I'll be honest, like a hierarchy of sports here. And I get it. Without football,
Yeah.
we don't have soccer. And like, I'm okay with like, I get how this works. And like, more for them doesn't mean less for us. It means more for everybody. So I am like super
Oh,
supportive of all of the other sports and how much success they've had. But I think here it was like, I mean, University of Oregon, Eugene, Oregon is like definitely like a pretty like niche space, but it's an awesome college town. Like I would have a really hard time ever coaching somewhere that like I wouldn't want to go to college. Like I'm not a used car salesman. Like I sell good
Right.
shit, So I'm like, you want to come here. Like this is a amazing place to go to college. You're gonna have a kick-ass time. And it's gonna be a good experience, but like we're gonna win. Like we're gonna be able to do something really unique. And I think what was exciting about this program was like I have an opportunity and my staff and the players have an opportunity. It's a really unique opportunity to be the first. Like there's not a lot of firsts that happen anymore. Like they've never made an NCAA tournament.
wow.
They've only had 2 winning seasons in program history.
Yeah,
And
that's like shocking to hear those numbers, right? Like, and
shocking.
I'm sure you were the same when you started to do your research. Like, wait, what? Like,
Mhm.
because you think University of Oregon, which a lot of times happens when you're talking bigger schools, right? Always in the limelight type of deal. You don't think that there could be struggles or that there are teams that, just aren't quote unquote good or whatever it is,
Sure.
or that standard is just set across the board for that everybody is on a certain level. And sometimes that's really not the case.
That's really true, and that's something that I've kind of learned this past year being here is like as amazing as it is, and what's kind of projected out into the public space is we do have really awesome stuff here, and that's but there is I think I've learned that I probably owe some like mental apologies to previous coaches and stuff that I've like judged and like why they
Of
and like
course.
how have you not won here, like what the
Right.
hell.
Right.
And
Because on
now
the
having been
outside
here,
looking in, right,
oh,
it all look like
we have
smoke and
everything.
mirrors,
It's like we
right?
don't
Smoke
though.
and
Yeah,
mirror,
we
right?
don't.
Like,
Yeah,
or if you don't have it, you could ask for it, or like everything is at your fingertips. How can you not take that next step now
right.
that you're in it?
Yeah,
Right? It's
yeah.
a bit of a game
There's just
changer.
some interesting like nuances that I think at this level, being at a power four, like they they matter. They matter at a different because like you're competing against other programs in the conference that like don't have these same kind of issues, so to speak. And so you are really, you know, coaching and competing against other programs that like we always say like every program has their thing that like they've got to
Right.
like fight against. Like for us, like we have a turf field, and that doesn't sound like it should matter, but it really does
No,
because it's hard
apparently
to
it
get
does,
teams to come.
right?
Oh, it totally does. Oh yeah,
Because that surface is a big thing when it comes to soccer. I've heard it numerous times. I mean, look, we have a professional soccer team here, and it's just in Jersey, the Red Bulls and whatnot, and the surface play is a big deal. Like even with all the FIFA stuff coming, right? Like MetLife is where the Giants and the Jets play here, but it's turf, and they're trying to. It's got to be grass for FIFA and all this. There's a lot that go into it. That's so interesting that you bring that up. I
yeah,
didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
no, that's okay. Yeah, it's something that like it's hard for me at times because I'm so like because of where I've been junior college Division 2 like mid major where we didn't have like anything so to speak like relative to this. It's
Right.
like you just deal with it like whatever. This is beautiful. Like who cares? But like I said, being at this level now and understanding who you're competing against and what you're competing against, like those really small things like do actually make a big deal, like a big impact. So like, for example, there's a lot of teams in our, in the NCAA that like won't play a non-conference game against a team that has a turf field. So
Hmm.
like it's hard, like if you're trying to get high level talent to come play you, they're like, you have a turf field, sorry, or yeah,
Is it
like
mainly an injury issue? Like, is that a health thing?
it's injury and it's just yeah, it's just surface. Like the wear and tear it puts on your body is it's a nice surface to play on, but playing
Of
on it
course,
every
looks
single
pretty.
day, yes, every day, like by the end of our season, I was starting to shorten training to be like 60 to 75 minutes, like max, which
Mm.
normally you would train like 90 minutes to 2 hours ish. And I was shortening trainings, like eliminating like really a lot of contact that we were doing. We were pretty injured, but like you just even for me, like I still get out there and I play with the
Of
players
course.
quite a bit and like run around and like the way that I felt after training on turf for like one day, I was like, man, this just kind of gets you like the impact's just a lot harder. It's harder on your body. So yeah, that's just like a small piece. But yeah, there's just little things that pop up where you're like, oh,
Right.
Eugene's also really expensive to fly in and out of. It's a small airport. So I'm looking at our recruiting budget and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like this is way more than I would have ever like needed in my mind. But I'm like, oh, it's $1,000 round trip to fly out of Eugene. So this doesn't actually go as far in my mind as I thought it was.
Right.
So there's some things where I'm like, all right, I get how there's been some challenges and now it's about adapting to them and for me I'm like a no excuses type of person, so we're going to make it work anyway. But I've learned a lot this past year for sure.
That's really, really interesting. Like the nuances of because of recruiting, obviously that becomes the main part, right? Those nuances, and then other people how they might recruit against you too, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
becomes like some of the players that you're pursuing, they're also pursuing, right?
Yep.
Especially
If
in
they're
the big
smart.
Yeah.
right, especially in the Big Ten, which is really the Big 18 or whatever,
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Exactly. But yeah, like especially in a great conference like that, and it is it's interesting because there's not a ton of West Coast schools in the Big Ten, so the travel part becomes a little bit of an issue for, the schools that are, outside of football, basketball, I mean, those big two football, and women's
Yeah,
basketball, I would say, those
sure.
programs. So those become interesting issues. But having said that, like, there's a lot that obviously makes up for that, that are benefits of Oregon. I'm curious from like a recruiting standpoint, like, do you start to have like a base difference and like where you would go from a recruiting base standpoint? Is it truly national for you? Like what do you kind of look at from that standpoint?
I think right now, like in the short term, until we, are able to build our program up where we've got some more wins under our belt, have a little bit more success in the Big Ten, we can probably recruit a little bit more like nationally. But right now, like my contacts and my staff contacts are all West Coast, right? Like we're all from California, and there's a ton of really talented players in California. So I think for us, like strategically looking at, all right, typically the best players in California, if you're not going to Stanford or UCLA, USC, like Cal, like Oregon, I want to say, and UW probably are like the next big, those are the only Power Fours on the West Coast. So everybody
Right.
wants to go to those schools. And so, for me, like the Pac Northwest and California is really where we're looking at for the most part, just because we have the most access, the most relationships with club coaches. A lot of our current players, I always say your players are your best recruiters, right? They're the ones that are like,
Yes.
I love Tracy, I love Oregon. Like they're talking to their former club teammates and they're like, everyone needs to come here. So we've gotten a lot of I would say like a lot of contacts and just like notoriety through our players that are reaching out to their former, clubs that are like, you got to send players here. Like, this is awesome. And again, like the West, just proximity and geography, right? Like it's a lot to ask an East Coast player to come out to the West Coast. And like financially, it kind of depends. Everybody's situation is different, but we've just found in the past year that we've had a lot more success with West Coast players. But we have a kid that's from Ohio. We've got, players from Texas. We've got, you know, we're making moves, and I'm going to Dallas next weekend to recruit. So,
Nice.
hoping that we'll get some, kids out of the South. But the SEC is so dominant with NIL money right now too, that like we don't, and here outside looking in, like we don't have NIL money at Oregon for women's soccer yet. And so,
Oh,
we're competing. It's hard
with
to get a
somebody, yeah,
kid with kids from the South that are getting full rides plus NIL. I'm like, yeah, we don't have that. And I'm asking you and your family to pay for
to
you to
come.
fly all
Right.
the time to come watch games and stuff. So we probably, the Midwest is probably somewhere that we could, start to really look at, which we are, just because so many of our conference games are out that direction. So it's a
Yeah,
little bit
now.
more of an
Yeah,
incentive for those
absolutely.
families.
Right.
Mhm.
And I think once you and look, it's happening in all sports, right? The the way recruiting was based off of it, with conferences being a lot more geographically in the same areas, right?
Mhm.
But now you see these conferences like the Big Ten that's now expanded. I mean, look, Rutgers is in the Big Ten. They play USC, they play Oregon. Recruiting now becomes national just by default, right? It
Right.
opens up your area. And with, I think, the way social media is and the access you have to seeing other things or more of it, right? Whereas normally, look, you grew up in California, you knew California, and that was about it, right? Or we grew up in Jersey and it was that Northeast corridor. Like that's really kind of what it was. Now, with the way social media and the way the conferences are shifting, the national aspect of it really plays into it. But when it comes down to it, like you said, like the nitty gritty of it, hey, that would be great if I could get an East Coast player to come to the West Coast. But
Mhm.
am I financially, is that going to happen? Or are they
Right.
going to want to do that where, now you got to figure out how do mom and dad get to a game? And like you said, the nuances of where you are, right? Like $1,000 to fly in and out of Eugene. Like how
Right.
many times are you going to do that a year? And do I want to see that, or are we willing to do that? It's
Well,
difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
soccer is so huge in California, though. So I mean, it's like a whole country in itself.
It
Uh,
is.
yeah. So I would think that you probably, and especially that you have such a great base from being at UC Davis and San Francisco and the junior
Mhm.
college, and you probably know every club coach up and down California because of that. And I'm sure that'll continue to roll. And the fact that you're in the Big Ten, which because of the Pac-10, it's like some of these things are hard to like say and not
Right.
say. But whatever it is now, Pac-4, I don't know. Is it a
Soon to
Pac-10
be
break?
Pac-9 or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, right. They're adding all those schools from like the Mountain West.
Wasn't it the
Yep.
Pac-12?
It was the
What's
Pac-12, and then
Pac-12?
now I think they're still calling it the Pac-12, even though I think there's only 8 teams in the conference in
Look, I'm
26.
still getting adjusted to saying Power 4.
Yeah, right. No, exactly.
But
And the other difference is the scholarship component now with like the roster cap and the NCAA, like rev share and all that. It changes the landscape also, where you've got a lot of conferences and different teams within each conference have increased their scholarship allotment. Other teams have not. Just having the standard, everyone had 14 scholarships and that was it. Now it's like you can have up to 28 and you can fall somewhere in that. And so there's a lot of different things, and that goes into recruiting now where it's not so black and white as it used to be. There's just a lot of variance depending on funding from universities. So all that matters.
Do you have the full 28 for that?
No.
Or?
No,
Okay.
I think in the Big Ten, I think there's maybe like 2 or 3 that actually have all 28.
Okay.
But most everybody got an increase to some degree, but not everyone did. So
that's it. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting part too as well. I mean that's going to every sport with these scholarship limits, which raise the number of scholarships that are available, but took away from necessarily things like walk-ons and some of those opportunities from that standpoint, which we get to know what like issues that will create. But the ones that are able to obviously have the full amount versus ones that don't, like there's not like a similar playing field from some of those standards, which is odd. I guess you have to get more creative in how you go about doing everything from those standpoints. But I guess if you have less scholarships under the 28, that means you have more walk-on spots available, right? Is that what ends up happening?
yeah, typically like you're still splitting,
Okay.
your
Money's
scholarships
up.
up, where
Yeah.
everybody's on something. Like very rarely are there
Right.
like full rides, like
Right.
and this is really specific to women's soccer, and just like the demographic typically that we like work with, where it's not men's basketball, where a lot of them like rely on getting full scholarships. That's the only like way their families can like afford college, where like soccer is becoming like a very like elitist, like wealthy sport with all the travel
Yes.
and everything. And so a lot of families aren't necessarily choosing their college based on the scholarship offer. For some, for sure, and obviously NIL, like that matters, like the higher level that you go, but ultimately like they want their kid to have a good experience and not have abuse by their coach. Like I mean the bar is low in some ways, but like
Right.
I think they're like women's soccer in particular isn't as influenced by the scholarship offer or what's allotted than other sports. So,
That's not the one thing that they're chasing is, hey, I need a full ride in order to go and be successful in college or just get to college.
Get it off. Yeah.
Right. Now it's, hey, who am I playing against? Or what
Yes.
opportunities are you going to give to me to maybe take it to the next level after I finish my
that's the
college
biggest
career.
piece. That's the biggest piece now, I think, is for like, being in a Power 4 is like, can you make me a pro? That's usually like the number one question is that now that there's so many professional opportunities.
That's what I was going to say.
Are driven by that. Yeah.
Right. And the appeal of the now more formalized structure of a pro league or the opportunities to, look, you're not reaching for something to go just join whatever because you want to keep playing. There's actually a structure in place of, hey, I want to be a pro. So how do you make that? Or how do you help me? How can you help me do that? I think it's interesting when you talk about the level, like that's so different, right? In comparison to when you're talking like football, where the full ride scholarship is the ultimate appeal, right? And that's what you're constantly chasing. I think, and so your path coming from where you came from, right, to now where you're at, does that help you in that factor of recruiting in terms of you've done more with less, and now you have more in order to, gain that or get those recruits that you're looking for? Do you think that plays a role in kind of where you're at now in terms of recruiting?
Yeah, I think the biggest advantage that like my path and trajectory, which is really different than most Power Four coaches, like the fact that I was only an assistant for one season, like I've been making this shit up as I've been going, right? Like
Right.
I didn't have a copy paste situation. I didn't watch someone win. I didn't watch someone like exactly how they do everything. Like I've truly been making it up as I go and problem solving, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. But and so to that degree, like I've got a lot of confidence in like what I've done and a lot of experience of like, well, that didn't work, I can't do that again, or understanding how to talk to kids. But I think the biggest advantage for me is like evaluation of talent. Having been at all those levels, like it's very clear and obvious when you're watching a professional soccer player or someone that's got potential to do that. Like when they're 16, 17, you're like, hopefully everyone can recognize the very best player on the field. Like that's obvious, right? But like that next tier player, it's hard to identify a player that's going to still be able to compete against the best players, and still have a major impact. And I think if I didn't have Division 2 and like mid-major experience where I'm looking at them through a lens where like I know what the best player looks like, we're not going to get those kids. So like what's that next tier down, and like how, like in my coaching pedigree, am I going to be able to coach you up enough to make you compete and develop into a potential pro? And having had that experience, it's been really helpful. Like for example, when I came to Oregon, I brought 5 of my Davis players, transferred with me, and arguably like they were our best players at
Right.
Oregon, and like they came in feeling like, oh man, like so nervous, right? Like, oh, like this is a big jump. And then they, after like a week, they were like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, guys, like the margins are really small, and like it's just an opportunity. Like whatever coach gave you an opportunity, like it can happen for you. It's funny, like my staff and I, we joke all the time that there's professional players that are stuck, at like a Division 2 level just because no one was able to evaluate their talent. And so now, like with the portal, that's changed. Now they're able to like get in the portal and get to where
Right.
they need to go. It's a little bit different, but yeah, I think evaluation of talent has been a really important thing that I've learned at the levels that I've been at, that are certainly helping me in terms of like building and again taking this program over. That it's hard. It's a hard sell for the best players on each team to come to, but I can certainly evaluate talent that's going to help us be able to compete at this level before, and build something until we're able to get to that level where national team players want to come here.
Yeah, I think that's becoming a norm in a lot of sports. Like when you go to a place, taking some of the players that you think really would fit, with your program at the next level, and then leveraging that in order to build your team around them, because they already know kind of what you expect, what your culture is, what your practices are like, and those kind of things, and they could communicate that to the newer athletes that you might be recruiting, versus basically starting anew, which was kind of how it used to be. So I think there is obviously, like, you can point to, like, in football, Indiana did that obviously better than
Yeah.
anybody, right? So, but that's definitely a model within recruiting. I'm curious because soccer, there's so many variables and levels of play at club level. And like, I don't even know how you can go about and evaluate, because it seems, because there are things that are very, very difficult. Like you said, the very best player, you notice them when they're on the field, they're playing against the highest level, they dominating that highest level. You can pick and choose who those people are, and
Hmm.
you can obviously actively recruit them. It's that next group that belongs at the highest level, but not as easy to quickly identify.
Hmm.
Talk about like some of the differentiators that like you look for with a player that separates them, because I'm sure in the club, soccer is so crazy with the club circuit, like the
Yeah.
levels and who gets moved up, and there are probably sometimes players that are not, maybe for whatever reason, playing at an elite club that happens to have certain characteristics that you might want, or
Mhm.
skill sets, or speed, maybe, talk about like some of the things that you go into for your evaluation.
Yeah, what's tough about soccer is it's like to your point, it's like it's so subjective. It's not a statistic driven sport,
Right.
right? Like swimming, football, basketball, like how many points per game, how many steals, football, how many rushing yards. Like there's things that are, quantitative and you can actually look at. Like soccer, like especially in club, like you're not there's nothing being posted with how many goals you scored in your club season, right? Like in that would matter to some degree, but not really because it is subjective. It's based on who you're playing with, who you're playing against. And so that's something that like when we go into like evaluating talent, we're certainly looking at the level that you're playing at. Because a lot of it is like translating your training environment and who are you matched up every weekend, and is that
Right.
going to translate to the college game? So like being the best player on a bad team that plays in a bad league, like yes, you are very, very good and like you could probably come here. However, like what do your training habits look like? Are you being challenged? Like, are you going to be crippled when you get into this environment where everybody is the best player? If you're playing in a good, even so, if you're not the best team that player on a very, very good team, but you're training against those players every day and you're competing against similar players every weekend, you're way more prepared to come into a high intensity, high like volume environment. And that's what I think there's like a little bit of like delusion with some parents and
Yep.
and how this works is like, yeah, you don't have to play at the highest like level of club soccer to get recruited. You certainly don't. However, when you get into a different environment, it's a lot bigger of a jump and it's a lot more mentally challenging and physically challenging than they're used to. So that's where you lose some confidence and that happens. But looking at it, like the margin, like I said, are so small, and ultimately I'm pretty like old school when I'm like I really like good athletes. Like I'm like I can coach a good athlete up. It's there's a lot of really talented soccer players who aren't necessarily great athletes, and there's a lot of great
Mhm.
athletes that aren't good soccer players. You want both, right? But the
Right.
combination are the ones that are, those are national team level players or ones that are going like big time Power Four programs. Um, but for me, like finding good athletes that are really competitive, like I can do something with that in a lot of ways. But a lot of athletes have ceilings, to their athletic ability. Uh, but you can always like learn. And I really like coaching, and I know that should go without saying, but a lot of coaches don't
No,
necessarily
they
like
they definitely
coaching
don't.
anymore, and I
Not at
love
all.
coaching. Yeah.
And I think for you, your path just kind of shows that, right? Because you got out of it for a little bit. You tried something else, and you know what? Like sitting in that cubicle was not a fun experience. And so you do it with that in mind, knowing like I don't want to go back to that cubicle. Like that's
No.
not where I'm at.
No.
This is not where I was placed on this earth to do. And I think that approach, and it's funny you bring that up because we see a lot of coaches. We talk to a ton of coaches, and the good ones, it just like seeps out of their pores that they love everything about like what they're doing, not just the X's and O part or like
Right.
the sport. They just have a love and a passion for it. And that's, it's different because you would assume every coach is like that, but it's really not true. You see some of these people that have literally been in their sport since they were able to do it physically as a player, then right to a coach, and they're burnt out, and
Oh yeah.
they're only doing it because maybe it's all they know, or it's just what it was. They've never experienced something else, and it's a different world that you would assume everybody loves it, like
Yeah.
but not everybody does. And it's a really interesting take on it because I think that's something that if you want to have long-term success, like your players see that. They see passion, they see the
Totally.
love of the game, they just see how much you care about it and why you're doing it for those reasons. And I think that in itself is a recruiting tool. Whereas
No
some
doubt.
people almost have to force that, which is
Yeah.
crazy to think about.
We have the best
Right.
job in the world. I know, like I've always like just thought like, because there's obviously times and points throughout the year, like even a season where you're like, man, like can't wait for this to be over. And it's like a fleeting thought, or like, gosh,
Right.
okay, we're gonna start up again. And I always am like, all right, you question yourself, like, man, should I be doing this anymore? Or like, is this where am I at? And then like every morning, like every day, I'm like, if I wake up and I don't want to be the best, then it's time to retire. Like I gotta get out
No
of this.
doubt.
But like right now, like where I'm at, I'm like, every day I wake up, I'm like, I'm gonna crush today. Like I'm gonna crush this shit and I want to be great. If I stop feeling like that, that's gonna be my sign to get out of here. But I think a lot of coaches, to your point, like they're long past that point, right? Like they just do it to do it. And that it is like it's a profession and I understand that. But I love coaching like so much and like too much at times, where it is like
Right.
it's my identity in a lot of ways and I wouldn't be me without it. And so yeah, it's that passion, it's palpable, and to your point, like I think players understand that, especially like young women, like 18 to 22-year-olds, like arguably they're in their most like malleable stage of their life and heavily influenced by people around them and their education. Like I love being a part of that. I
Mhm.
want to help them and on and off the field. And, I'm definitely tough. I've got really high standards and high expectations, but I also feel like I offer like a really high level of support too. And like it's all based on like love and respect and helping them get where they want to go.
Well, I think that's a big part of it. The ability to translate like your passion and pulling out their passion for it and be able to get them to compete. It's sports has probably changed so much, you know, since the last 5 years, but since you were playing, it's changed so much. And soccer, I guess, was one of the first really to take on the that role of like with clubs and really developing them out. And then they were probably, that soccer, probably basketball, and then I guess eventually right after that baseball, really baseball slash softball, right, became really big in that space. And it really enhanced especially in the women's game, enhanced the level of play. And obviously you could see how good the USA women are.
Right.
But it also changed a lot of like parents' expectations for what is available. I see you smiling, so you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
But it's changed parents' expectations as to what they think can happen. I'm curious, kind of like your thoughts of that whole world, and I'm sure you came up in it, as a player. Almost every soccer player does, but you mentioned earlier that like it's become like almost like a white collar sport to an extent. And my only experience as a parent is my son's 1 year. He plays football and now basketball and track and baseball. But we had a good friend that was like, when they were like in like what do you call it? I call it nursery school, but I don't know what you call it now. Daycare, I
Mhm.
guess.
Mhm. Mhm.
But when they were in nursery school, they were, big soccer people, and he was good friends with those two kids, and they became really, really great soccer players, and they are now. They're, I guess, 10 or 11 years old. And when my son was playing like rec soccer at like 5 and 6, they're like, "Hey, why don't you come and play club soccer?" So, coming from the football world and like and try like it wasn't nothing was ever really that expensive. Even if we thought it was expensive, it wasn't expensive. And the first time I plopped down that money, I was like, "Oh my goodness." I could not believe it. So he
Yeah.
played, he did really well, and he was did great job at it. He's a good athlete. But like he really was like, I want to play tackle football the next year. He wanted to play tackle football. So that was our 1 year journey in the club soccer space. But why I bring it up is because I was very surprised. I was very surprised. So, and I was very surprised at the levels of things and how intricate the system was, right?
Mhm.
Meaning they had their own. I mean, he at the time was 7, I think, and he was they had their own coach. They like that was a paid coach. Like we had our club, which it's a big club where we live. He had his own coach right from the get-go. They had their own coach, and they were part of a paid staff that came in and trained them every week and multiple times a week, and it was a whole year-round thing. And we were shocked. Like
Yeah.
we were really shocked because I didn't know. No, and then I was shocked financially. Like to this day, It is still the single biggest outlay I ever put in sports. Now he's 10. He's 10. And like I tell you, I pay, like he's a football player, basketball. I pay for one-on-one training with quarterback stuff, with for basketball, and still soccer has trumped it. So I said, and we were paying for one-on-one or anything like that yet. So I say that to say it's interesting how soccer has really taken that realm. Now I'm sure there's avenues for different levels, because I know there are different levels, but this club happened to be like a really, really good club. And I was like, wow, if I was going to be like all in on soccer, it wasn't just going to be a time commitment. It was going to be a really, really large upfront financial commitment. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about what you've seen over the years and how that evolved, and just your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's insane. Like I would never want to coach club soccer ever again. Like mainly because of parents, but also like just like the travel, like that to me, just it's so extreme, and it's so exclusive in like not a good way. You are absolutely keeping really talented players and great people like out of the game in a lot of ways that aren't getting the exposure that they would want. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, and this is just being in a college coaching chair, is the club system now. It's so college recruiting driven, where like you're losing the element of like being on a team and like competing to win a championship. It's like, because everything is based around like getting you to the next level, and like that's not what youth sports are for in a lot of ways. And what's tough, and this is what I think college coaches have struggled with a ton, is we are the club coaches are telling their players that A, they're going to get them a full ride, B, that they're going to help them get to like the highest level, Power 4. You are only a Division 1 soccer player, like don't even look at D2. And that there's like this delusion around it, where now it's like when we recruit, like the parents and the kids' expectation of like playing time, finances, like full experience is so not what it is, that like we're constantly kind of fighting against like this unmet expectations, and it's because they want to have the best players, and they want to bring everybody, and they make these like false promises, like over promise, under deliver is like all over the shop, and so that's been challenging as a college coach, because you're like, okay, so you've been told that if you play for this club and you pay this amount of money and you travel all over the country, that you're guaranteeing them a full ride to a Power 4, like, and that like this is like real conversations, like this is actually happening, and then I watched
them. How do you sleep at night?
Yeah,
I saw it firsthand when my kid was just 7. Like I was like, the guys that we were friends with, they already, like, I was like, I just want my kid to play in the club level with his team. Like, we don't even know if this is what he wants to do. Like, so we're trying it. And then his friends were at above, like, an age group above. They're playing up already. Like, there were 7, Derek. They were playing up already.
But it's just the fact that they're already like, there's ranking systems at that age. Like, we've talked to baseball guys. We've talked to basketball guys.
I'll say that.
Right. But it's just so insane to me. And we go back to come full circle, right? You talk about like the geographical aspect of it, right? Like coming up, you were only a good you were a good player, but you only knew you were a good player in the area or location that you were in.
It's the town next to you. Yeah.
Right. Like maybe you knew your state, maybe, right? Yeah. Now we're talking about like, hey, you're 7 and you're the number 25 shortstop in the nation because, you went to some camp or some showcase and you paid some money and they put you on a list, and now all of a sudden, I mean, look, Dave and I still get invited to prospect camps. You know what I mean? Like, right? Yes. You were, yes. But guess what? If you pay the next tier, right, now you're number 10, or it's just so Looney Tunes. I think basketball was the original with the AAU and that circuit, no doubt. Baseball is now it's
Baseball's
wild.
past, I would say,
And,
all of them.
and I get to learn all of this firsthand through Coach Schumann, right? Like with
Baseball
his
is
son and every sport that his son touches.
Yeah.
This is before we get into wrestling or lacrosse or football's kind of been, I want to say, protected from this in a way because it's just so niche and different in the youth world compared
There's
to
not
what it
like
is.
club really. It's like high school only, right? For the most part.
But there's different avenues. You have 7-on-7. You now have
Yeah.
flag, which is becoming a monster,
Which is
right?
club too.
You know, but it's and you know, your club was
tackle club is not as big. That's the
Right.
big.
Yeah.
It's because you got the reason why it's not. It would be as big if you didn't have to go and buy all these pads. Insurance is more as a tackle organization because obviously the risks
there's more physicality,
associated
yes.
with it are higher. So, you know, people aren't just going to go and say, hey, I'm going to take on all these risks. You know, I'm going to buy all this equipment, you know what I'm saying, for these guys and not know if I have enough kids for a team, you know what I mean? So it's a little different where you could definitely take that risk in basketball, soccer, baseball, because it's not as many players required. But so I think that insulates football a little bit, but believe me, it's
coming.
It's coming. So it's not, you know, there's always someone willing to take a risk, you know, if there's some sort of financial gain or glory gain at the end of the day, right? So but it's very, very interesting because I wonder, like, the one thing that protects football a little bit too is if they want to get professional football players down the line, meaning college, I use college now as kind of in that realm, but because NIL, college and professional, you have to get a lot of kids that cannot afford to go to, you know, to maybe even play on some of these clubs unless they play for free, right? You still are getting kids that come from lesser financial means that are making it obviously to the highest level. Basketball has some similarity to that, which I think has capped the amount of financial output, even though there is a ton of it still in basketball, but how far you can go, meaning like, hey, if this kid's really good, like, you know, I'm not making him pay to play on my
prep school will pick him up, like something will happen.
I wonder if like sports like soccer has become a lot like lacrosse, like where you almost can get,
that's what I was going to compare it to.
Where you could get excluded just because there are so many players. Soccer is the #1 sport that every child starts with, and I feel like soccer thinks if I'm
started at age 2 by me, like, holy hell.
Oh yeah. And I have a funny soccer story, but I'll save that for a little bit later. But it's a sport that everybody starts. It might be the first sport that every kid starts with.
Yeah.
So they have a natural filtering system, which is bigger than any other sport in America, that they could kind of like start to like grab kids, you know what I mean, that they want. So, and I do think you're 100% right that you might lose some of these kids that might be from a less financial background, because if you go around the world, obviously, because
it's
of
international as well, like that's a big deal too. Like it's on an international stage. Yeah,
well,
right. I mean, when we talk football too, it's very niche to North America, right? Or like, even though they're trying to branch out with the NFL and all those things, like it's very niche to what this is.
Soccer does it internationally that is different than what it is in America is there's no college system, right? So if you're, you know, a little kid coming up, like the David Beckham thing was great. I watched that because it really tells people in America, like, this is how kind of the system really is worldwide. He's identified at a pretty young age. He is actually through the professional system, if he's good enough to make, which he was, make it through. Like, there's different levels to it, and you're in that system until they move you to another club, or another club acquires you, or you feel like you want to change clubs for whatever reason that is. But like, that's the system all the way straight through. And in the United States, it's jagged between schools, between college, between professional is not as big in the United States.
Mhm.
And so it creates, I think, a more difficult system in where it lends it more to like, hey, grab these kids, have them pay, go into the system, and now we know these are the kids we're working with, as opposed to funding a kids like we might get in Europe or
Mhm.
in South America, right? Or even in Africa, where we're funding these kids through the club because the pro club pays
Mhm.
for all those kids that we might have to fund down the line. Now, there are kids paying too, but kids that we could take those kids and fund them. In America, that's a lot harder. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
I'll let you go from there. But uh,
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of players that are discovered, so to speak, or like are on
right,
scholarship for certain clubs. I think what a lot of people don't know is that when there's a boys and a girls club that play under the same like, whatever, same club, and there's two sides, a lot of the girls' registration fees pay for the boys to get scholarshiped. And
interesting.
that's something that is yeah, a lot of clubs have started to like separate themselves because they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Why aren't we scholarshiping girls? Like, why if the money's coming from the girls' side, why isn't it going to the girls?" And it's like that's just something that's become a little bit more of like a topic, because it just goes into a pool of money and, so a little bit different now, but I think, yeah, there's definitely players to get scholarship, but I think what's hard is it is really difficult to get recruited, or identified, to even like get a scholarship to play on a club team, because they live in like rural areas where they maybe don't have a top club or their families like work full time and they can't drive 3 hours to a soccer practice. So there's just a lot of like sacrifices that like aren't possible in a lot of ways. And so there's a lot of players that do miss out, what no question. And you know, I definitely feel like in a lot of ways, like if you're good enough, someone will find you.
Right.
I truly do feel that. And there's a lot again, like I feel like I've used delusion a lot. But parents are like, well, my kid hasn't been recruited yet and they just haven't been seen. I'm like, no, dog, they have been seen. They're just not good
Right.
enough. Like there's not this is like if your kid was good enough, someone wants them. Like I like there's not no one's like holding out. Like they're like so it's a little bit difficult in that way because you're looking at players that for sure haven't been identified, like really have not been identified because they haven't been their exposure has been limited. Um, but yeah, there's still like I think opportunities. I know for sure a lot of having coached at a junior college,
Right.
totally different
Oh,
demographic of
oh,
people that go there.
absolutely. Oh my
And so
gosh.
they like, yeah, like those are players that didn't necessarily get identified because they're, like Santa Rosa's out, you're working out with, a lot of like farm workers, like you're in an
Right.
agricultural world and there's a totally different like group of individuals that are there. Which is why like the JC system, if I didn't ever coach there, I would know nothing about it. And I'm like, it's one of the most valuable things not just in California, but like in the whole country. Like it's a great opportunity where if like I feel I can say this with confidence, like there is an opportunity for every single person, every single female soccer player to play college soccer, whether it's to junior college or all the way to Division 1. Like junior colleges and community colleges are there for a reason, and that's like a really great, it's not beneath you, it's not like a bad level, like it's just like if parents and families like really looked at it as more of like an opportunity, I think it's a major missed out, or missed on, I guess, like experience for
Hmm.
players to continue having a career, and using it to potentially fund their college. Like you get 2 years of school paid for, like
Right.
like get all your general ed done and then transfer. And now with the Pavia rule, shit, you can play 6 years.
Right.
You could play
That's
like go
really
play at
true.
JC for 2 years, and now you can play 4 years at Division 1 still. You can be a
It's
college soccer
unbelievable.
player for 6 years.
Yep.
Now now
And
now
be a
you're getting your
doctor.
master's paid. No,
Yeah, I
now
was
you're
gonna
getting
say.
your master's paid for. Oh, 100%. You can play your 4 year, like, yeah, you only have
Yep.
2 years of like, undergrad left, and then you got 2 years of college left. Go get your master's paid for. Like that, I'm a huge fan of junior college soccer, and telling people if you don't have the right fit, because guess where you're gonna end up anyway. Let's say, and this happens all the time from California and West Coast, is like this
Right,
D1
because the
dream.
JUCO world in California is different than a lot of other places.
It's
Like
a
that's
totally separate.
it's a absolutely, and it's a
Yeah.
huge like even football wise, like the JUCO world in California is very, very niche. Like it's a very big thing. It's a legitimate avenue for a lot of those kids.
Without question. And it's just this, like, it's a way, yeah, like I financially it makes so much sense, and like just development if you're not like quite there, because typically like most of the junior colleges in California are D1 kickbacks, because you get kids that like, and you guys are in Jersey, so I feel like I can respectfully say this, but like, there's a lot of Bay Area kids that are like, I only want to play D1, and then they end up at like Middle Tennessee, and I'm
Right.
like, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, culture shock, like.
You're like, yeah, but you're from
You're from
California,
the
you go to
Bay, like you are
Tennessee,
from
like
the Bay. You're not gonna like it out there. Like it is a
Right.
totally different. And then they're like, oh, this isn't what I thought. I'm like, yeah, well, I told you should have played D2 in San Francisco. That would have been your jam. But you wanted to only play D1, so now here you go. And so a lot of the JCs are a lot of kickbacks, and probably same for, I think football's got quite a few too. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's good because it gives so some of those kids who might have been in a club that wasn't as prominent, they go to JC, and then they have an opportunity to get recruited.
Mhm.
And obviously, if they're a standout there, that's really easy to find them. So it's not the end of the road. It's a lot of cases it could be the beginning. Well, now it's become
it's kind of flipped a little bit.
Yeah, it's become. I mean, I think that's one of the things that is it's interesting, because when the whole transfer portal thing happened in NIL, at first people thought JUCO was going to go away.
Yeah.
But now, literally because of Pavia, it is like it literally, because they were worried about, you lose 2 years. Why would I want to take a player that loses 2 years and all that kind of.
Right.
But now that those 2 years don't count, now it basically will revive junior colleges, because this is bless you.
Bless you.
That's okay. It gives you an opportunity to develop and grow from that standpoint before you actually have to use any of your eligibility, which is, I think, is pretty. I mean, I'm old, so some of these things I go through it, and in my head I'm like, this is good for, I try to just keep it, all right, this is good for the athlete in general, because like your mind goes to like what it was.
Yep.
But I think I think it really is for the athlete. It's a potentially a great thing for them. Do you in soccer? I'm curious. Is there a benefit to women's soccer, older athletes, or is it at that point, are they like with men? There's clearly physically, like, some men are still maturing. I always think that boys are very immature when they go to college. So like when you're getting them at like 23, 24, obviously they're more like men. Where I always feel like girls, when they become women, like they seem to be mentally more mature when they encounter college experience for the most part. Obviously, there are instances where they're not, but
Sure.
but does that matter? Does that matter physically or mentally to have older athletes in the women's sport? Is that as big of a thing?
Yeah, I think the physicality piece isn't as like pronounced, I think, as like the men's sports. Like an 18 to 22-year-old woman, like there's 18-year-old women that look like 25-year-old women, like just
Right.
physically. I think the biggest difference is just like time in the weight room and like strength. Like they might look the part, but like, an 18-year-old girl coming out of the club system, high school, going into a tackle with a 23-year-old woman that's been in the weight room for 5 years, like that looks different because there's more intent behind a tackle. So I think like it's a lot of it's like the mentality piece that is the
Mhm.
bigger adjustment, is like they're not ready for that piece. A lot of the time is like they get here, and like the physicality and the day-to-day grind where like you are competing to not just be on the team, but like to make the travel squad every week. And that's the hardest adjustment, is like you you can't take a day off. There's no day off, because the day you take a day off is the day like another player shines, and then like there goes your spot. So it is I think the mentality piece is probably the bigger adjustment than the physicality at times, but it's more like strength, I think, and just I don't know how to say it another way, like articulate it better, but like the intent behind the physicality isn't just like I'm here and I'm a good soccer player and I'm
Right.
fast and I'm strong. It's like 22-year-old women have like perspective, like I am doing my strength and my speed have a purpose that's deeper than just like I play a sport. Like they're trained. They're trained athletes versus just athletes.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
the
Sorry.
longer the short of it is, I guess older as a whole is better.
Yes. There's a
Older as a
reason senior teams with seniors win.
right.
Like they get
Right,
it.
and you
Yeah.
look at football, the 2 national championship that were in the national championship, Miami and Indiana, majority of their guys were 4 or 5-year guys. Whether they were at those schools for those 4 or 5 years, that's a different say, but just the longevity of older players, right? And I think basketball was interesting when the one and done type of thing was going on a lot more, where you see that, low level, like high level player, maybe low level maturity, right? Or the off the field stuff used to take off, like, or off the court used to take over. I mean, look, you have a direct correlation, right? Your husband sees it all the time, for what he does. And I'm sure that some of those conversations, when you talk, it's well, like you're talking Power 4 Division 1 men's basketball, which is a totally different animal in comparison to, women's soccer, but there are similarities that go across the board when it comes to it. And I'm sure that benefits, having some of those conversations for, hey, you want to hear a good one? Like, guess what I get? Here's this one today, right? Like, and with the 2 sports where the club circuit is a big thing, right? I think that helps you too, right? Because AAU basketball is that world, right? Or club soccer is that type of world, and it's just parents and the expectation, right? And the development that's now happening at a younger age, whether it be physically or socially, just the maturity level of everything. It's wild. It's the hardest thing to determine, that middle school kid athlete that hit puberty early and they just dominate across the board. Are they really that good, or is it just purely the puberty aspect of it, right? Because I'm sure, look, we say it all the time. Every one of us knows that person in middle school that you played against that was an absolute animal, and then got to high school and you're like, where is this person, right? They're no longer, where are they? Oh, they're still on the team, but it's just, I think that development
They
aspect.
didn't develop the other areas of their game. They were just this one thing. Yep.
And it's such a younger age now, right? Of like, when do you start that process? When do you go into okay, this is the sport I'm taking a shot at, and the others are going to dwindle, right? Like, that's a huge question we see a lot. Are a lot of your players multi-sport athletes? Have they done other things at a higher level, or is soccer one of those sports, or is it this sport? Like we said, it's the earliest one that most kids participate in. Do they now make that their sport at a younger age? And the multi-sport thing for you is that something that you even, discuss, talk about?
Oh yeah.
Do you look for multi-sport girls in recruiting more so than others? Is soccer such a niche because you can play it every season? Like, how does that work in your world a little bit?
Yeah, no, I mean, multi-sport athletes are like typically my favorite because they're just that they're better athletes. Like they might not be as good as soccer players because they haven't dedicated their time to like the technical component or like watching film and the tactical awareness and things like that. But I just feel like their overall athleticism, and I think what's interesting that doesn't necessarily, it's obvious that doesn't translate to the women's game, is like the air game. So like being able to track a flighted ball, like because the club system now everything's on the ground and everything's really good possession based and we want to like play to feet, and then they get to college and they like can't head a ball, and I'm like, that is a huge part of the game. But they don't train that because like the ball's never in the air. And like I learned to track a flighted ball because I played basketball, I played tennis, I played center field, like I played all the sports. It's like I don't know if I would have been as good in the air as I was had I not been all played all the sports. And so I'm a huge fan of it. I don't think that I think people specialize really early, for sure. And out of my team here, I feel like there's a lot more multi-sport athletes when I was at Davis. And I don't know if there's like a correlation there, whether they ended up kind of like a mid-major, but then to my earlier point, like they could all played at a power four, you know, they just
Right.
didn't get evaluated or identified. And so, yeah, like I wish they played more sports again, like just outside of the learning of itself, like being in a team and like playing other sports and having other friends and like the social component. Like there's girls that don't even play high school soccer, they only do club soccer, and they're like, "You want me to play high school?" I'm
Crazy.
like, "Yes, because you're like
Yes.
playing for your school, you're playing with your like your normal friends, like, and it's just for fun, like it's for pride, and like you're playing also with older players or younger players. You're learning how to be like not just people your own age. Like there's a social benefit to this also. Yeah, you're representing something, your hometown, your home school, like that's fun. Like you're, you know, do all the things. So I wish people did, but with the time demands of the travel and just, you know,
Right. Like, when do you do it?
how it
Like, how
works.
do you fit it into that
When
schedule?
yeah, like you know, and parents now it's just different. Like when I was in high school, like I played three sports at a time. Like I did track, so I did my track workout just during seventh period. Then I went to my softball practice right after school, and then I went to club soccer practice in the evening. You know, my grades weren't, you know, great, but I still went to Berkeley. Thank you very much. So
Right.
that worked out
Right.
for
Yeah,
me.
like,
But you
let's
know,
let's
I'm
put
like, all
that
right.
out there too, that, like, coach, like, God,
Berkeley
like,
I
it
know,
ain't
I know
Berkeley
people
is
be like,
there ain't many
why?
Berkeley's
people
an
that go to
interesting
Berkeley, like,
place, by the way. I've
it's
been to
it.
Berkeley.
Oh yeah,
I've been to
oh yeah,
Berkeley. Quite
oh
an
yeah,
interesting place.
you
But
know,
Derek,
yeah,
there's some places you got to go. See. And actually, Cal is up
California
on that
itself is a
hill.
very interesting, you know what I mean? Like,
Cal is up
California
on that
itself is a
hill, which
different
is really
place.
yeah.
cool. Like you come in there, and I remember coming into Berkeley. I don't remember what I was there for, but I'm coming in through Berkeley, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about this, you know. And then we come into Cal. Then you go up that like hill or whatever. We come in there.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh wow, this is really nice.
Yeah.
But I was going to the city of Berkeley. I was like, whoa. I'm
You
like,
go down Telegraph Ave, got you. Yeah.
oh my God. Yes, that's what I came down. Exactly. I was like, wow, okay. That's an interesting experience. Now I come from New Jersey and but I wasn't expecting it. I guess that's the thing. Like I wasn't expecting Berkeley to be like that. I didn't know the whole like 60s hippie culture and all
Oh
that
yeah.
kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But it really to me was like, I'm like, it's still 1968. Like that's what I thought. Like I thought like give it I said,
It's a time capsule. Yeah.
it is a time capsule. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's still 1968 in downtown Berkeley.
That's
Derek,
right.
it's something. I can't explain it unless it would be something you just have to see. Like if you look and you see the old, like, from history, the Haight Ashbury and all the like
Yep.
old stuff like from the 60s, and you would think, oh, that's history. You just got to go to Berkeley to realize it's not actually history in downtown
It's still
Berkeley.
Still
there.
happening.
Oh yeah.
It's still happening. It's still happening. It's still happening.
I
But
love it.
which is it. But then you come to Berkeley, which obviously the school is beautiful. I mean, it's obviously,
Phenomenal.
yeah, and an amazing academic school too. Not just athletics. And you guys had he didn't finish at Berkeley, but he did end up becoming the Heisman Trophy winner who was from
Uh-huh.
Berkeley. Berkeley
Yep.
gave him his shot,
That's right.
when
That's
nobody
right.
else would. But really interesting stuff. I'm curious because, and I don't want to dive too much into your personal life, but I think it's really an interesting dynamic to have two people that are married and be on and totally different areas. You don't have to go. You could cover whatever you
It's
do
okay.
or don't want
I
to.
get
But I'm
asked this
just
all the
curious.
time. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure it's like the norm question of like, hey, how do you make this work?
how do you? Yes,
Yeah.
it has to be an interesting scenario.
It is. It is. And yeah, I'll be like, how? Like, do you guys see each other? I'm like, not really. Yeah,
But you make
you
it
know,
work.
And you have
we
a
make it
child,
work.
right? You have a child as
We
well.
do, and
Okay.
that throws a whole ass other thing into the fire. But we're really good at FaceTime. And I think, when the Michigan opportunity came up for Justin, like obviously that was like just it was so exciting because I've seen like I thought I worked hard and then I met a men's basketball coach and I was like, oh shit, you guys are like wow, okay.
Right.
Yeah, totally different. Just never not on the phone. you
Right.
know, and it just insane watching film after. I'm like, how many games do you watch? Like, I watch like 3 or 4. He's like, I don't know. I watch games from last season. Like, I don't want to miss one thing. I'm like, oh, okay. So, you know, their scouts are crazy and they're, yeah, anyway, he's just like, he's so elite at what he does and he's so good at it. It's like, it's made me better in so many ways, but watching the Michigan opportunity was just, you know, like, I don't wanna, like, speak for him, but, like, you know, you guys are coaches and you understand, like, you know, 5 years before the Michigan opportunity, not 5, like 7 years before the Michigan opportunity, like, he's coaching AAU basketball, like, under 12s,
Right.
you
Yep.
know, and,
Yep.
like, never, you know, I'm not gonna say never did he ever, like, obviously, he had aspirations, ambitions to, like, do the work to put himself in a position to get that job, but, like, I mean, that was, like, a no-brainer. I was like, "The University of Michigan wants you to coach
Right.
basketball there?" Like,
Right. Yeah.
That's
what? You
amazing.
know?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
beyond.
incredible. And just to see his trajectory and like where when I met him, you know, he was an assistant at St. Mary's and then, you know, 2 years later he was the associate head coach and they had like the best run that St. Mary's basketball had ever had, 3
Oh
years
yeah.
like he was there, you
Bracket
know, like
busting all over the place. Yeah.
all of it, like 5 seeds, I mean, they're crushing it, and so, like, for him to get that opportunity, like, as devastating as it was to think that he was, like, leaving, you know, because our daughter was only, like, a 1 at that time, I
Right.
was like, "Man, okay." But I was like, "This is what we do, though, like, you've gotta
Yes.
go," and, you know, and he was like, "I don't want you to leave Davis," at the time, like, I was like, "Listen, like, I wanna get through my season, this is the first time I've been at a program long enough where I get to coach women from freshman year to senior year, and I wanna see these seniors out, like, I owe them that, and, you know, I wasn't ready, to be fair, like, as a mom to leave, like, my mom and his mom were there, and, like, I was like, "I need help," like, this shit is hard to be a head coach of program and also a full-time mom and now, like, a single mom, really,
Right.
and I was like, I don't wanna go, like, I need to do this and just my own mental health and, like, how hard I've worked to put myself in a position, and he was super supportive, and we're just really good at FaceTime, and, you know, I think
Yep.
our seasons are opposite, and so, like, you know, the day I'm done, like, I was out in Ann Arbor, and I got to go to Vegas and, you know, when they have that tournament there, and, you know, I went out for, Wesley's my daughter, we went out to Ann Arbor for 2 weeks in December, he came back to the Bay for a couple days. He came to play Oregon, so that was awesome. That was
Yeah,
we
great.
didn't
Yeah.
have to pay for that flight. They were out here for 5 days and, you know, we just went there. I was recruiting in Toronto. Literally, I got back midnight on Sunday night this week, but I was in Toronto for 2 days and then
Yep.
stopped in Detroit on the way back to
It's
go for
awesome.
36 hours. So, like, it's really hard. It's like, you know, but it's possible and you just gotta do it, and our hope is he loves Michigan, and I don't know how long he's gonna be there, but, you know, his trajectory is to be a head coach, like, he's elite,
Right.
and he's done a great job,
Damn
and,
right.
you know, we're from the West Coast, so, like, his goal, my goal is to, like, get him back on the West Coast in a head coaching role, and, you know, just stars hopefully align are it's something that we've always said is, like, just be great where you are, and
Right.
doors will open, like, just focus on, like, don't we could really live in a hypothetical world if this had because, like, guess what? University of Michigan head coaching job for women opened up, like, 2 weeks ago, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, are you going to Michigan? This makes so much sense," and I'm like, "Yeah, but then, like, if I go and then you get a head coaching job in April, and now
Right.
I'm in Michigan on a 5-year contract, and you're over here, and, like, I'm already over like, what are we doing?" I was like, "Let's just, like, hey, like, what's in hand right now? Let's just be great where we are, and, like, if stars align, like, we're good people, we work hard, like, hopefully karmas, and we'll end up back in the
Yep.
same coast." That's the goal is
Absolutely.
coast first, and then, you know,
I
for us to be at the same school, like that's highly improbable. But as long as
yeah.
we're in the same coast, I think like because our seasons are different and my
Right.
schedule's more flexible than his, like man, like I think a lot of my friends are jealous that I only see, you know, my husband 3 days a week, you know. They're like, that's great. It's a
No
perfect
doubt. We're
situation.
like, that's
Yeah.
why it's working so well, right?
Yeah,
It's like it's
exactly.
so funny.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
So
Everybody gets
yeah.
along good.
Yeah.
That no doubt about it.
Keeps it exciting, you know? Yeah.
No, it's amazing. It's definitely it's. I mean, it really, really is amazing that you guys are doing it. It's like one of the first things I've ever heard. You know, like I'm sure there are others that go on, but like both coaching at a really, really high level, like is at different places. It's
To
amazing.
high level
Yeah, you guys are
prominent
like high achievers.
programs.
Like you two must come in the room and make people nervous. You know what I mean? Too high achievers.
We do like when I got this job, people were like, "Oh, Big Ten power couple." I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh shit, okay, yeah,
You're
I'll
like,
take
yeah,
that. Let's say
absolutely.
that. All right. Let's go.
Oh,
Awesome.
that's great stuff. That's really, really great stuff. Okay, I'm gonna tell you 2 funny soccer stories.
Okay.
But before we let you go, these are
Okay.
my personal soccer stories. Okay, and it wasn't long that I was involved in soccer. So, but soccer story number 1, I'm like, okay, we're not living where we live now. We were living in North Jersey at the time, and my son was 1 years old, and I'm like, I'm ready to get him on his athlete journey. So there's like some soccer program, and we bring him over there, and it's at this field, and we say, okay, you got to go in the middle. It goes into the middle. He's 1 years old, and he goes in there, and the soccer coach starts, explaining to these like 1-year-olds what he's going to do. I don't know why he's doing this, but like I was like, just get him moving. Well, as he's explaining, we're not really like paying attention, and I look up, and my son is over on the playground jungle gym. And that was it, bro. I'm like, you want to go back? He's like, no. He's like, so he goes, that was our first soccer experience. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to get credit. We're gonna have to get a credit for this to like next year because he's not ready. So he was over on the jungle gym. That was way. And my second soccer experience is the only sport that I'm undefeated in coaching is actually soccer. Because those two kids I was telling you about that had my son end up joining their club team for a year. Those kids were unbelievable, and they were the head coaches of my son's rec soccer team. And but they would go coach their older kids like club and would leave. And there were games that I had to coach soccer. Now this is a football guy. I had to coach soccer, and I would coach this team, and they were so unbelievable. It was rec, and we would be up like 6-0. This happened 3 times. We're like 6-0. I would blink and we'd be up by so many goals. And these 2 kids were running around. My son was good, but these kids were like unbelievable. Like I don't know if they started playing soccer right when they came out of the womb. And I had rec soccer coaches that wanted to fight me. Like literally wanted to fight me. We're so upset, and I'd be like, calm down. Like the 2 kids that just scored those 5 goals, they're over there picking grass. I already took them out because they scored it so quickly. But we were so dominant, and it had nothing to do with me because they had to tell me that you don't say.
At least you recognize that. That's good.
Oh yeah. I used to be like, just boot it down the field, and they told me, no, you don't say boot it in soccer. They taught me all these things about soccer. But I was undefeated as soccer coach, and they'd always tease me to be like, you should give up football because soccer, you're undefeated. That was your calling. I said, yeah. I learned pretty quickly. Have the best soccer players on your team, and you're in good shape. You're in good shape.
Division Joes will always help regardless of sport.
That's exactly right.
Those are my 2 quick soccer stories, but I can't thank you enough for coming on. Really, really, really awesome stuff. I can't get over the O in the background. Like I'm jealous. Like it's incredibly, I'm sure you don't have time to take a second and look at, where you're at, but I have to say it's and I know you have goals in what you're going to turn the program into, but it's pretty cool to have the opportunity to coach at Oregon and to be able to build that program up. It's a tribute obviously to you as a coach and your success and what you've done already to really have that opportunity. But it's great to be, see someone at really the highest level and accomplishing the things that you're accomplishing. So we really wish you, much continued success.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This was fun, guys.
No doubt. I'm glad that all the podcasts, Derek did a great job of getting you on the podcast. Hopefully we were one of the better ones for you. So
you were the most fun for sure.
Thanks, Coach. Really appreciate it.
I'm so casual that I love this. Is so much easier than very asked and answered. I'm like, I would rather just have a convo. So I was all about it.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Coach Warner, have a great day. Have a great, upcoming weekend, and we'll talk to you real soon.
You. All right, guys. Have a good one. Thanks.
Take care. Thank
you.
Bye. That was fantastic. Really good stuff, dude. Good job, dude. Kudos to you.
Dude, she was awesome.
Awesome.
Like, hey, coach, sure, why not? Like, let's do it. I'm like, oh, okay, like phenomenal. And then, look, it's just, I think, like she said, the informality, I guess, of just like, let's have a conversation about
Yep.
the worlds that we're all in. I think people, even at the highest of levels, respect that in a way of like, it's not like, it doesn't have to be tight. Like, I don't want to come into a
Gotcha. It's
situation,
not
right? And we're not like,
and we
like,
talk
right,
about
general, like,
topics. We talk
right,
about different topics, but we want to know what you're saying, what your thoughts are.
right.
Like,
We don't have an agenda. We're not
right.
trying to sway it. We're not trying to angle it.
We have our
Here's what it is.
opinions. You have your
Correct.
opinions.
And that's what it is. But it's
Right.
more of just, how can we get more people to see really, like, and that's why I think it was another appeal for her too. She's like, there's so much like misinformation of like what women's college soccer at this level is, that like I would love to come on and have a conversation about just generalization.
She covered a lot of it too. I think she did a good job of covering
her path. Really, I think, aids in what she's doing in that whole aspect of like a junior college coach, like never was like the formal whatever big time, has done a lot with little, and now like I also love some of the eye-opening things that she said, like, here you are at the University of Oregon, yet like, a field surface that most people would kill for is what hinders you in getting the highest of the best players. Like those issues, or just like that type of thing of just like bringing to the forefront that Oregon women's soccer isn't where it should be, or what she feels like it's like the standard of what Oregon University is there's work to be done. And I just think that's really cool that, she was willing to come on and kind of have some of those conversations, dude. So really
I
cool.
think in 5 years, you're going to see a lot of football going back to grass.
Oh, definitely, 100%. I think that's just the whole thing. I also think you're going to see
about high school, because high school is more about money. Like,
right, it's really budgeting, because you can get more with that surface. You can have more things. You can attract more people. Like, it's just that type of thing too. But
you can use more people. Yeah,
correct. Like, you can do more on it, right? Like, hey, we're going to play the middle school games at the high school because whatever, or like, hey, it's raining, but we don't have to worry about grounds crew and all this other kind of shit. Like
the higher levels, I do think
100%. When you have the ability to maintain it and do it right, absolutely, dude, no doubt.
I mean, it's better for your legs. It's better for the players.
She talked about it. Like, I felt better when I played on it. So, hey, man, tomorrow, 10 a.m., Coach Chet Parlavecchio.
Oh, that should be good.
Yeah, I just got to make sure I can get the whole link, set it up, type of the technology aspect with Coach Chet is going to be interesting, because he's.
Do you want me to get you the link a little earlier?
If you could do that, that would be great. Just because I believe, look, I even think I'm talking to his wife through email. Like, I think that's. It's amazing. Yeah. But I'm excited to talk to Coach Parlavecchio, man. Like, a legend, done a lot of things at a high level, old school as old school can be. And I'm sure Coach Chet's going to let it fly.
No doubt about it. No, I think I'm sure. Is he retired now?
Yeah. Okay. He's been for a while. I want to say close to 4 or 5 years, maybe, from Passaic Valley. He hasn't been out of, yeah, right. But he hasn't been out of coaching that long. Look, I know when I was at SJV my last year, he was helping out at Immaculata.
Okay.
Oh yeah. When I saw him on the other side, I said, like, Jeff, let's get back on the bus. Like, we're not scoring a point. Like, there's no doubt. Like, it's just so, but it would be cool. And I know his son's the head coach at New Providence. Jeff's like, wait, who? And I'm like, buddy, I'm just telling you, like, we should just get on the bus. Like,
and you knew that, and they're going to be tough.
I was saying, and our kids right now, dude, are just like, thank God it's the last game of the year, because I hope we can survive this, because we're going to get hit so hard today. Like, he's like, really? I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be crazy. And it's exactly what happened. So, but it'll be cool to talk to him, having been a high school coach for a long time, an administrator. I know he coached in the league for a while. I mean, he was a high level player. His son's the head coach at New Providence right now. So it'd be cool. I'm interested to talk to him. I've known him for a long time, man. And he's an awesome dude.
No doubt about it. That sounds good, man. Well, all right. We'll see you tomorrow. Great job. And yeah.
Cool.
Stuff,
talk tomorrow, buddy.
All right.
She was awesome.
Yeah, she was great. She's great. Absolutely great. All right.